If you're looking at buying a new camera, you might be looking for that perfect camera that does absolutely everything. Something that is good for video, something that is good in low light, something with a high megapixel count or good autofocus. Unfortunately for us though, as the users, hobbyists or professionals, there is no such thing as that perfect camera, and it can be quite overwhelming when you are looking at all of these different cameras trying to choose the one that you should go for. But I'm here to tell you not to worry and get overwhelmed by it, because choosing a camera doesn't have to be difficult. You just need to know exactly what it is you are looking for. So in this video, we're going to go through 5 tips to help choose the perfect camera for you. The first thing to understand when you're looking for a new camera is the differences in what you are looking for, because there are so many different cameras out there, but that is because they are all suitable for different needs. So even though a camera might be absolutely brilliant in one area, because of being brilliant in that area, that might potentially have a knock-on effect in another area. For example, a camera with a high megapixel count, let's say 60 megapixels, might be absolutely perfect for wildlife photography because it is giving you that little bit of extra potential to crop into your photos, get closer to your subject, and still get pinpoint sharp photos. But then that same 60 megapixel camera might potentially suffer in low light situations. Just noticed I've got this in the way, I'll move that. Because of this, it's really important to know your exact use case of the camera before you even start searching. Are you going to be shooting more video or more photos? If it's both, then you know you're going to want to be looking for a hybrid camera. Are you going to be shooting landscape photos? Are you going to be shooting wildlife? Are you just wanting to capture candid memories, in which case you might want a point and shoot camera? Or are you going to be making vlogs? All of these different considerations go into choosing that camera that you are looking for. And only when you know that exact use case can you start narrowing it down to those few cameras that might start suiting your needs. Once you know exactly what it is that you're going to be using the camera for, the next thing to consider is your budget. And this might sound very obvious and completely boring, because let's be honest, it is, but it's genuinely a huge consideration because cameras are not cheap, and you don't want to be putting yourself in a bad position buying something that you can't really afford. Once you've figured it out, you will start to get a much clearer idea of the things that are available to you, and the chances are that you will find something that will suit your needs within every price bracket. So even if you have a lower budget and you can't afford something brand new, you will find some brilliant deals out there on second-hand used gear on that same camera potentially. There are some incredible deals out there, and it is well worth looking through all of the used second-hand websites. Places like MPB are great for that. This is where most people usually start with their search for a new camera. They dive straight into the spec list and they think, whoa, this camera's got 60 megapixels and it can shoot 12K video at 120 frames a second with no crop. And while that sounds great on paper, it's important to take a step back and think about it logically and apply the 2 first steps that we've spoken about before you get to this step. Because as I mentioned before, if a camera is capable of shooting 12K video, the chances are it's going to have compromises in another area. And the reason for that is that a lot of the spec list, when you look at it, is all marketing. It's designed to make you stop and think and look at it and want that new piece of gear. So the main thing to do with this spec list is to go through and just pick and choose which are the ones that are going to be of most value to you. You might decide that you want a full frame camera, and then you can start to think about how many megapixels you might need. For example, if you're only going to be posting on social media, 24 megapixels is going to be more than enough. If you're going to be filming yourself making YouTube videos, you're going to want a decent autofocus system and maybe a flippy screen. So instead of just looking for a camera with the best spec list and jumping into buying it straight off the back of what it says on paper, be a bit more nailed down with your research. Maybe even try and get your hands on the camera for a few days. Hire it out for a weekend and go and test it out, because it is only when you actually start to use the camera that you realize it's not all about the spec list and what it says on paper. This is something to consider if you think you might be wanting to grow the selection of gear available to you in the future, because you might be wanting to add another camera body or grow your selection of lenses. And when you do this, you'll be wanting to keep within the same camera brand and the same lens mount ideally, so that it's quick and easy to be able to change lenses between bodies, and it's also really quick and easy to match up colours between cameras as well, because they use the same workflow and the same colour science. You really don't want to end up with two camera bodies from different brands if you can help it, and using lenses from different brands as well, because it really messes up your entire workflow and it makes things a lot trickier. Believe me, I've been there and done it and learned the hard way. As you may be aware if you've seen any videos on this channel before, I use Lumix cameras, and I use these because they suit my needs brilliantly. Because I invested into Lumix with the original Lumix S5, I also have two other camera bodies in the S5 II and the S5 IIX, which means I have no issues workflow wise. They all shoot in Vlog, it's nice and easy to match the colours up, and it's not spending hours trying to balance colours between different cameras, maybe between Sony and Lumix, for example. It's all nice and easy. And as well as that, they all have the same lens mount, which means I can quickly and easily change lenses between cameras and I've not got anything to worry about. Something else to take into account as well while we're on this topic is third-party lenses. So even though I use Lumix gear, I have access to third-party lenses that will fit on my Lumix cameras from the likes of Leica and Sigma. And that means that you have a greater choice of lenses to choose from, and potentially sometimes an even cheaper option sometimes as well. It's just something to be aware of, because third-party lenses can open up new possibilities available to you, but some camera brands don't allow third-party lenses on some of their cameras. Now this might sound a little bit ridiculous, but if you don't like the way a camera looks and the way it feels in your hand, the chances are you're probably not going to want to use it very much, and it's just going to end up sitting on your shelf. And that's the last thing you want to happen when you're spending $2,500 potentially on a new camera. You want to enjoy using it and enjoy having it in your hands, and not only that, but enjoy using the interface as well, because if you're struggling to find your way around the menu system, you're going to get very frustrated with it very quickly, and chances are again, you won't want to use it. As I mentioned before, for this reason, it's really important to try and get your hands on the gear and use it for a few days before you end up splashing the cash and potentially regretting it, because no one wants that. It's meant to be an enjoyable thing. If you follow these steps in this video, you will be much closer to finding the gear that works well for you. And it is going to be absolutely different for everyone. So what works for me might not be something that works for you, because everyone's needs are completely different. Try and narrow down your search as much as you possibly can to maybe 2 or 3 different options. Watch the reviews, listen to advice, but don't just base your purchase on people's recommendations before actually using it for yourself. Make sure you use it before you buy it. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from this whole video. So hopefully you've gained something from this video. If you have, don't forget to hit subscribe just down there. And if you are still looking for your perfect camera, I recommend you watch this video next, and I will see you there.